When learning English, expanding your vocabulary range is crucial because it's going to help you understand other people and vice versa. When you're having a lot of vocabulary, you can be expressive, coherent, and cohesive with your ideas and sentences. Hence, people can understand you very well as well. However, most of us as non-native speakers of English, when learning new vocabulary, have to deal or face with a lot of obstacles and challenges. And those challenges and obstacles prevent us from being able to remember the words we've learned before. Or in other words, we just keep forgetting what we've learned and not being able to recognize the words we've learned a long time ago in conversations, in movies, or even when we talk with somebody. And if this happens to you a lot when you start out learning English, it's gonna drain out most of your energy and motivation to keep learning English and its vocabulary. Because there's nothing more boring than learning something that you can't even remember or apply in your daily life, right? That's why in this video, I'm going to share with you not only some tips, but most importantly, a method that I've been applying in order to learn thousands and thousands of words in English deeply and being able to use them in my daily conversations as well. And unlike any other tip and trick videos, in this particular one, I'm going to share with you the step-by-step instruction of how you can apply the method I've been using. So make sure you jot down all of the steps that I introduced in this video. Hi guys, my name is David from English No Big Deal. I've been making a lot of content on both of our website and YouTube channel in order to help people around the world achieve English at home, especially for those who don't have any access to any English classes. But if you don't know anything about me yet, let me introduce a little bit about myself. So, my name is David, as I mentioned before. I'm from Vietnam, and English is not my native language. Or in other words, I am a non-native speaker of English. I actually started learning English 7 years ago when I turned 26. To your surprise, I did learn English around that time just for fun, but since I could speak it fluently after a short period of time of learning it, it totally changed my life. So after that, I had an opportunity to go study abroad, specifically in Canada for 3 years. And then after that, I stayed there for another 2 years before returning to my country, Vietnam. And over the course of the past 7 years, I've collected a lot of tips and tricks and personal experiences, and that is also the intention of creating this YouTube channel so that I can share more with you about how to learn English efficiently. And if that is something that you really are interested in, please make sure that you like this video and also subscribe to our channel so you won't miss any of our future videos. And don't forget to turn on that notification bell so that you can get notified when we release new videos. Now, before diving into the step-by-step instructions of how to use the method that I'm about to introduce in this video, let's clear out with me some of the concerns that you have around learning new vocabulary in English. And oftentimes, the concerns are primarily about what is the difference between active and passive vocabulary and how are you going to be able to improve your active vocabulary. So first off, we have to define what is active and what is passive. So active means that you know it and you are able to use it when communicating with people. In split seconds, are you going to be able to use it, or it takes you a while to actually remember or to recall the word? While passive vocabulary is also something that you already learned, but you couldn't pull it out in the middle of a conversation, or in short, you can use it whenever you need to use it. And because fluency in English requires you to speak smoothly and being able to produce a full sentence or full sentences in order to be able to be responsive and expressive when communicating with somebody in split seconds, that's why you can't just use passive vocabulary and demand yourself to be fluent or speak fluently. Or you can also say the only way to speak English fluently is to use your active vocabulary. Now, if those statements sound a little sophisticated or unclear to you, let me give you a metaphor. Maybe you can understand it more easily. So active vocabulary is considered as your money at your disposal. That means you have it at hand that you can spend whenever you want on whatever you want. That's the amount of money you have immediately. While passive vocabulary is considered as your kind of long-term investment, and you won't be able to use it or take the money out to spend on whatever you want when it hasn't hit its maturity date yet. That's why you just have to keep investing and keep waiting for it until it matures so you can get the profits out of it. And the reason I talk about this is because a lot of people in their YouTube videos talk about how you should just focus on your active vocabulary so you can cultivate English fluency and kind of neglecting learning new vocabulary. But let me tell you, if you want to be rich, then your investment has to be maintained and kept just as good. That's the only way you can be guaranteed to make some profits in the future. Or in short, you're going to be able to speak English truly fluently in the future. That's why you shouldn't drop anything. In fact, you should continue focusing on your active vocabulary in your communication, but at the same time, brush upon your passive vocabulary so that you can speed up the process to make your passive vocabulary bank mature a little faster so you can gain profits. Because it follows just one rule in order to transition one word from your passive vocab bank into your active vocab bank. And that rule is by repetition. But not all repetitions are good, because if you repeat something excessively, not only that it's not effective, but it's also wasting you a lot of time. And I'm pretty sure that you guys have known or heard that the best type of repetition to learn anything, including languages, is called spaced repetition. And I'm gonna break it down in simple terms for you guys to grasp it as well. So spaced repetition is typically against the idea of saying the more you repeat something, the better your memory for it will be. In fact, it encourages us to just recall or review the piece of information we've learned once in a while or at the most crucial time in the future and not excessively all the time. And that is the wisest way to help you fight the forgetting curve, but at the same time, saving you so much time. Because instead of spending a lot of time keeping reviewing everything you've learned day by day, month by month, or year by year, now you're only gonna spend some time at some certain point in the future to review what you learned today. And the method that I'm about to introduce to you today, not only does it have spaced repetition as its backbone, but it does contain all of the 4 components or levels of memorization that Gabriel Guiner, the author of the book Fluent Forever, talked about in his book. In his book, Gabriel Guiner talked about the importance of these 4 key components to help you strengthen your memory for anything. And these 4 components are sound, spelling, meaning, and personal connection. Now, if you haven't read that book, I highly recommend you checking it out. And to this point of the video, if you have already understood the beauty and the power of the method that can encompass all the good stuff that can help you learn English vocabulary efficiently, then I only have 2 things left to tell you in advance. And the first one is, this method is not for lazy people because it requires consistent work on a consistent basis. And the second thing is that at some point during this video, you might tell or think to yourself that the method I introduced in this video is pretty much similar to some of the apps using spaced repetition that you can find on your phone or any of the devices you have. But trust me, those don't work very well for one simple reason. And that reason is those apps are designed and created by someone else, not you. That's why you cannot have the most feel or the most personal connection for the knowledge you learn. But if you cannot have the most of it when using those apps, maybe you shouldn't use them at all. And later on, when I touch upon the steps of the method, you'll know more about why using this method will help you gain the most personal connection for the knowledge you learn. Now let's get right in some of the tools and things that you need to have at hand in order to be able to apply this method. And the first thing you have to have is a notebook. So this is also the reason why that I told you that this method and applying this method is gonna give you the most personal connection, because you get to write a lot in your notebook and it takes a long time in order to write everything that you love, that you like in your notebook as well. But later on, I'm also gonna talk about how you can write less but still be effective. When writing your notebook, not only is going to give you the most personal connection or attachment with the knowledge you wrote in it, but also it's going to give you an easier time to review everything you wrote in it as well. Why? Because your handwriting is going to be a lot more engaging and interesting than some typed or print words that you usually see on the screen, right? And just to prove it to you that I've been using this method, I'm going to show you all of the notebooks that I've been using over the past 2 years. And here they are. So this one is the very first one that I used when I first started the technique or the method. And this one is the second. This one is the third. And right now, I'm working on this one. And later on, when I show you the steps, it's going to be mainly about this one. So this is a notebook that I bought and it costs only probably $2, but right now I can imagine how valuable it is to me, because after probably a month and a half, I've been writing probably 1/3 of it already. So maybe 1/3 is like a lot to you, but for me, I only got up to 130 sections. 130 sections. And why there are only 130 sections, even though I already used up 1/3 of the book? And the reason is very simple, and as I already mentioned before, that I wrote a lot because of my purpose in learning English. And in order to reach that purpose, I have to write a lot in order to be able to know more. And don't forget that you don't have to write a lot like me, because later on, I'm going to show you how to write less but actually be effective as well. And the second thing that you need is an Apple device, which can be either an iPhone or an iPad, that allows you to download the app called Smart Cards Plus. And this app is free, even though it sometimes asks you to upgrade the version so you have the access to some of its more advanced features and have more of the control over your improvements. But trust me, you don't really need it, because I've been using it for over 2 years and haven't even upgraded once. This entire app is very user-friendly with an easy-to-use interface, so it's guaranteed to take you less than 10 minutes to get used to the app and completely master it. And the next thing that you need is the online Oxford Dictionary. And you can access this dictionary with whatever device you have, as long as it's connected with the internet. And most of what you write in your notebook comes from this dictionary. And apart from being one of the most trusted dictionaries for English learners around the world, this dictionary is written in English, so you'll get used to reading and understanding its explanations in English. And this ultimately helps you learn faster and immerse better. But if you are a beginner and find it hard to understand the explanations in this dictionary, then you can use the last resource or the last tool in order to make your life easier. And that last tool is called Google Translate. But don't just translate the word that you're learning or the word that you're writing in your notebook, but copy the entire definition, the entire explanation or nuance of the word that you're trying to learn, and then paste it into Google Translate in order to get the best or the closest translated version of what it means in the dictionary. Now, those are all the tools that you need to have at hand before being able to apply this method. Now, let's get straight into the steps. And there are 2 sets of steps. The first set is about the instructions of how you can build your own vocabulary notebook, and the second set is about how to actually turn your notebook into a spaced repetition system so it can remind you whenever you need to recall or review all the vocabulary words that you've learned. Now let's get straight into set 1, how to build your notebook. Step 1, having or knowing the vocab you want to learn. Maybe the words you want to learn are actually something that you heard from a movie or you read from a book. but make sure you have a list of them so you can start putting them into your passive vocab bank. Within this step, after knowing the words you want to learn, now you can actually start typing all the words into the dictionary so you can have the details to write down into your notebook. And don't forget to create a section in your notebook for each word with its section number, because it's going to be a lot easier for you to keep track on the number of words you've learned. Step 2. Writing the details from the dictionary. Now, I highly recommend you writing it in English for better immersion and memorization, because the act of writing the details in your notebook already involves learning and memorizing. Depending on how you want to learn the words and also the purpose that you have for learning them as well, you can actually write down only one or some of its nuances. My best suggestion for you is to go for only the nuance that you found from the source for the word, so it takes significantly less time to write everything. For me, I find it really encouraging and mesmerizing, interesting in order to write all the nuances of the words that I want to learn into my notebook. So I usually take about an hour to write about 10 sections in my notebook every morning. But if you only write one or maybe some nuances of the words, then you might be able to write about 20 to 30 words an hour. And one thing that you have to keep in mind here is to have for yourself a target number of words that you want to write daily. And when you have it, try to commit to it by doing your best to keep up with it so you can actually grow your passive vocab bank. And here is another important point to keep in mind. When I write the details, I paid a lot of my attention to some of the special details that help me not only know the words better, learn the words faster and deeper, but also helps me to be able to use in my daily communication. So what are they? Well, you can find them all in the preparation step 2 section in my blog post, How to Effectively Build a Vocabulary Notebook, on my website by clicking on the link below in the description of this video. So in this post, or particularly in this section of the post, I actually mentioned a lot about the nearby words that are listed on the sidebar of the dictionary. So make sure you read that section carefully, because it is really the key to learning a lot of vocabulary in a short period of time. And that is also the reason why that I told you earlier that I used up 1/3 of my notebook just to write down 130 sections. But if you do the math, by having 130 multiplied by 3, then that number is going to be a lot more. More specifically, it's going to be 390 words that I've learned in the past month. For your information, with all the notebooks that I've been using over the past 2 years combined, I've written about 1,500 sections in them and have learned approximately 4,500 words. Now, the number might not be impressive for some people because over the last 2 years, I had some life circumstances that prevented me from being able to be 100% consistent with it. But I said I was probably about 70% consistent with it. And for me, that is the number that I can be very proud of. Because not only that I can remember them to every single nuance, but I can actually use them in my daily conversations as well. And that is the most important thing to take away. Now let's move on to step 3. Now the step should be done the next day since you wrote all the vocabs in your notebook. And it should only take you about 10 minutes to finish, as everything that you wrote the day before is still really fresh in your mind. And the reason you don't want to do this step the same day as step 2 is because it gives you one more time to go over the words, and it counts as repetition to help you fight the forgetting curve. Now you need to use highlighters or pens in different colors in order to mark, highlight, or underline all the important details of the words that I mentioned in the previous step. Here, I like to use a luminous green highlighter for the most important details such as the word, its word form, as well as its nearby words, and an orange one to underline all the explanations for the word's nuances. Now this step really helps me love my notebook even more because now it becomes really organized, colorful, as well as appealing. Not only that, it later on helps my eyes focus more quickly on the most important details of the words so that my review or recall sections can be faster and more efficient. And those are the 3 steps to help you build your vocab bank out of a notebook. Now, let's move on to how to quickly turn your notebook into a spaced repetition system on your phone using the app that I introduced before. Remember that doing this is not only going to make your notebook last longer because you don't have to open it every single day. Now, you have an app on your phone in order to review what you wrote in your notebook, so your notebook can last longer. But it also helps you learn or have a system that helps you learn more effectively because it's only going to remind you when you really need to recall or review the words you learned before. Now let's get straight into the steps. Step 1. Download the Smart Cards Plus application on your Apple device. You can simply click on the link that I provided in the description below and install it. Step 2. Create a deck where all of your flashcards for all of the sections in your notebook are contained by tapping on Create New Flashcard Deck and finishing it by filling in the information it asks. After your deck is created, you can start creating your digital flashcards in it by simply pressing Create New Card. Now on the new window, you'll see that you have a total of 6 boxes for each card. Side 1 is for the front side of the card and side 2 is on the back. Just a heads up that in my notebook and the way that I've been using this method, I don't add any sounds to both sides. On side 1, I only put down the text for the word and its word forms for the first box and an image in the image section. Now to get this photo for your card or the word you learn, you can go on Google Image in order to find the one that you think is the most relevant to the nuances that you are learning for the word. Keep in mind that you can only insert one image in this section. But what happens if you have a word or so many words that contain so many meanings and nuances like a lot of the words that I've learned? If that is the case, then you can download as many photos from Google Image as you want for the words nuances and then put them all together into one photo only by putting them into a grid like the way that I do in this video. And once you have all the small images for one section of a card, then the next time you review it, it's going to be a lot easier for you to remember all the nuances of the word. Not only that, since you are the one who found all of those small photos, your personal connection is still really deep so that you can remember it deeper and longer as well. Now those are the 2 sections that you need for the front side. How about the back side? For the back side, all you need to do is to insert a photo that you take of the word section in your notebook that you created in the first set of steps. Nothing else is really needed here because the backside is to remind you of the knowledge that you can recall in the notebook. One thing to be careful here is that if you use the photo that you directly take from the notebook and insert into this application, then just because of the size of the image, maybe it's really heavy, then your phone will soon run out of memory or space. But don't worry, you can prevent it by compressing all the photos or images before inserting them into Smart Cards Plus using an app, a free app called Compress. You can download the app from App Store or simply just click on the link that I provided in the description below to install it. After downloading it, you can open the app and add to it all the photos that you want to compress. This app only allows you to compress a maximum of 3 photos at a time for free. But trust me, you don't have to upgrade it. You don't have to go for the pro version because 3 is good. You just have to watch an ad, and when the ad is over, you can click on the X to close it and the compressing process will start. And after it's done compressing your photos, you can actually click on deleting all the original photos so you can clear out all the space on your phone. And only keeping all of the compressed photos to insert into Smart Cards Plus. Step 3. Recall your due cards every single day. Just because this app is designed with a spaced repetition algorithm, and what this means is that it's only gonna ask you to review all the do cards when needed. When practicing recall, try to speak aloud in order to work on your pronunciation and to get your ear acquainted with the sound of the word. Most of the time, when a word or a card is still new to you, you find yourself stumped trying to use or remember the word. However, you will also find it easier after each and every single time you encounter it in the application. There are 3 buttons at the bottom of a card when you review it. Press the red X if you fail recalling the word, so the application knows that you need more work for that word and also asks you about the word more frequently. Press the side flipping icon if you want to check with what you wrote in your notebook, and the green tick mark is used when you successfully recall the word. Alright, to this point, you have already learned how to build a vocab notebook for yourself, as well as how to set up a digital flashcard system to help you learn vocabulary efficiently using spaced repetition. Now, if any of you guys are interested in learning more about how to create cards faster with your Apple device, as well as how to put multiple small photos in one grid, like the way that I showed in this video, then you need to keep an eye out for the next video because I'm going to share more about it in that one. And the last thing I want to say in this video is that consistency is key to building your passive vocab bank and successfully turning it into your active one. And this whole process takes a lot of time and patience, but trust me, it's all worth it because you'll notice that you can read English books easier and you can understand movies a lot faster. And most importantly, you will notice that you'll be able to use all the vocab words that you learn with the method I teach you today in order to talk and speak more confidently and comfortably with people. So that's why don't forget to comment down below how many words you learn a day and how many words that you can actually use in your daily communication as well. And finally, if you found this video very helpful in your English learning journey, then don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any of our future videos. Now that's it for today's video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.